Welcome back to the channel. We're finally getting some much needed rain here in Central Florida where I'm at today. So hopefully if you're in Florida, you're getting rain because we sure need it. Today I'm kind of going to do a hunt recap of a buck I killed on Halloween day. I guess it would have been 2021, I believe. But it was a 6.5-year-old buck, bedded on a point of a ridge at a Y in a creek. So if you haven't done so already, I talked in the last video. I talked about map scouting and things I look for, and this is one of those places I basically found doing exactly what I talked about. So I already knew the buck was there, but I didn't know he was as big as he was. The last time I had seen him was back in probably December or January of the previous year. A lot of our management areas here in Florida were allowed to spotlight, we're allowed to shine. Some of them only till midnight. Some of them we can shine all night long. So I'd actually shine the deer, I believe, like the first week of December in 2020, if I'm thinking right. And he was a 7 point. He still had the same frame, but he was only a 7 point. So in one year he put on a bunch of inches. I believe he scored. He only scored like right at 110, 109, maybe something like that. 6.5 years old, and he got that old living in a heavily pressured public piece of land here in Florida. It's a dog hunting management area, so most of the pressure is in general gun season, but there is a lot of archery pressure, but most of the archery pressure is in pockets like oak hammocks and creek swamp, pretty terrain that people want to go hunt. And where I killed this deer was in one of the ugliest places you would ever, you would, just ugly. So I'm going to show on a map where the deer was, where my setup is, or was, why, we'll talk about why I chose the tree I chose, and just how everything came together. And it was a perfect scenario, but I had to go find that deer that wasn't pressured in a heavily pressured management area, if that makes any sense. We're not going to learn anything by watching me shoot the deer, so I'm not focused on that. But when the deer got up over a 45-minute period, he went from, I watched him get up from his bed at 75, 80 yards, and I shot him at 16 yards. Took him 45 minutes to get there. So there was a couple bucks bedded where this one was laying. So I'll show you those clips, show you the bucks getting up. We'll talk about that. We'll jump over to my phone and I'll show you my stand setup, the wind direction, and we can talk about that. Using the footpath app here, but I want to show you the deer was actually laying right there, so he could see down in this creek bottom. It's all real open. The wind direction was coming like this, and my stand location was right here, kind of on this point. So he got up from here and took 45 minutes to feed, down through there, staying on that ridge top in the green, just browsing. The little buck had got up there and just came by me like this and went off out in the creek strand. But I parked my truck up here at this intersection and then walked down the road. So I walked down the road and went past the deer and cut in and came across like this. And my thinking for that was, if he does smell me, then he's used to smelling people on that road, either driving by or walking by or whatever they're doing out there on the road. So I came in that way instead of, trying to walk up the creek where he could possibly see me, or catching the wind shifting or crashing through this thick stuff or any of that. I basically walked by the deer to hunt the deer. So it was a little bit unique in that sense. But you can see this whole area is just low. If we get much rain, it's just staying in water. These green sections are just planted pines on little higher ridges, but the rest of it, all this, everything around here is just like swamp, thick, nasty, tangled swamp. The green ran basically was the thickest up on top of that ridge like that. So with the wind direction coming from this way, I picked my tree stand here. That way, when the deer fed by, I didn't want him coming on this side of me and getting my wind. So I made sure I was on the down one side of him if he browsed, and you could see that browse was just heavily browsed. So it ended up being perfect there. So you can see it's just a spike that gets up here probably an hour before the big buck gets up, but he just feeds on the new green from the burn and comes right by me. And then the big buck gets up here. He was just a little bit farther away from me and a little bit thicker, more where the dead stuff had blown over. I think he could see out to the creek there, but he does the same thing, just stays in the green. It takes him 45 minutes to browse down there to me, but he comes right down there on the up one side of me, and I got a good 16-yard shot. So you could see the deer was laying. He had the he had the creek. You could see down into the creek on one side. Had the wind coming from the other side. Basically laying in his food source. If he wanted to get up and get a drink, he could have walked 25 yards to the creek. So everything that deer needed to survive was in a little half-acre spot, and he felt safe. You can see by the footage, the buck didn't have a care in the world. He was never nervous, never had a clue I was anywhere around. He was just doing what he does every single day. And this is also one of those spots that there's a buck there year after year. But this burn I was hunting was, I believe, about 8 to 9 months old. So it had time to thicken back up a little bit, and the bigger tie-dye trees, the dead trees, you see the bigger tie-dye trees, had time for the wind to blow them over. They fell down and made a good place for a buck to lay. But bucks, it's one of those places I'll go check year after year, put a camera on it. I dog hunt also, so I'll take dogs in there during general gun season and jump whatever deer is there. But it's one of those spots that I always keep in my mind, that there's a buck there. It may only be a spike or a 3 point, but if one gets to live long enough, there'll be a big buck will feel safe living there. So I hope this video's been helpful to somebody. If you have a question or a comment or a suggestion for a video or anything, feel free to comment. You can message me on Facebook. And until next time, happy scouting, and we'll see y'all later.